Live, live. Let's go live,
Live.
live, live. What's that countdown for? Brr.
Counting.
We are
We're live
live.
now.
Okay, super. Welcome,
Peace.
welcome, welcome, welcome back to Decoding and Jones on the TikTok, to AlkaliYogi on the YouTube. And we are doing another segment of Decoding, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, the phenomenal first book ever written, I believe, by the incomparable Paul Chek. I am a licensed holistic lifestyle coach with the Chek Institute, a Chek practitioner, if you will. And each week I come live to help you all rediscover or remember the codes in order to empower yourself, in order to restore your health, or even just to procure health. Or rather keep it, I should say, keep your health. So either get your health back or keep what you have. That's what we're here for. And the reason why I do the decoding of the book is because we've all been getting our misinformation from memes and tweets, 140 characters and celebrities and politicians and so-called anchor people and journalists who've all been bought and paid for by corporations. And so it's caused a lot of confusion and havoc. So what's the best thing to do? The best thing is to get your information, break that word down, right? Mation from your books. That's the best place to get your health advice, yeah? Your decoding, your codes, if you will, not from little sound bites here and there, not from, endorsed people or what have you who may or may not have agendas. Not everyone out there is, easily bought and paid for, but certainly a lot of people are. And my job, is to share my resources in terms of the education that I have as a licensed and educated person in this field, but also to share the resources that I have in my library. Because the truth of the matter is, hello, I see you, Living Isha. The truth of the matter is, is that not everyone can afford all of these books. And so this is a time when we can also just become a village, a tribal village, if you will, and share the resources that we have. Let's pool what we have together and then share information so that we become whole once more. So we are currently on chapter 11 of How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. And this title is about stress, right? So that's a big one for most of us. Whether we're living in developing countries or in the West, stress is a big one. And it is absolutely necessary to understand that there's good stress and bad stress and how that affects our health. So let's talk about what stress does to your body, yeah? There are 6 types of stress. First of all, I went over this last week. So if you missed that portion, go back to the live from last Monday, whether you are on the YouTube or on the TikTok, and you can review what the 6 stressors are, but I'll quickly recap them for you. Physical stress is number 1. Then we've also got chemical stress, electromagnetic stress, psychic and or mental stress, right? Nutritional stress and thermal stress. That's a lot. And it's important that you're aware of when you're being exposed to too much of any of these things. A bit of all of this stress can be useful. Absolutely. That's how we grow, evolve. But too much of anything will absolutely become toxic. So what does stress do to your body? Well, the 6 types of stress described above can be broken down into 2 groups, internal and external. The external stressors, those are things that stress the body from the outside, i.e. sunlight, physical pain caused by injury or external forces, emotional trauma, and toxic chemical exposure. Oh, 2 pages got stuck there. Internal stressors instead would come from within your body. So that would be like a reaction to an external stress. For example, if you're repeatedly exposed to toxic chemicals, cancer or other diseases may develop. Even if the toxic chemicals are removed, cancer will continue to stress the body symptoms. If you're in an unhappy relationship, an external situation, you'll experience a chronic stress response within the body. Chronic stressors cause elevated stress hormones in the body, leading to immune suppression, the inability to heal, and eventually to dis-ease. Stress is perceived or interpreted by key control systems of the body. the limbic and emotional, the hormonal system, the visceral system, the nervous system, the musculoskeletal system, and subsystems. The bad or excessive stressors can throw the body out of balance. The nervous system plays an important role here. All stressors are funneled together and processed by the nervous system to create an overall stress picture in the body. This is important to understand, guys. When in response to external stressors such as exercise might be favorable, but too much of anything, again, can become toxic. The ability to bounce back from potentially damaging stressors is much improved when you're able to keep things balanced. So I want to show you a diagram that Paul Chek has in this book, just kind of reiterating the fact that all stress summates, right? So we know that we have various types of stress. We went over the 6 stresses. Well, they all summate, right? Physical, chemical, electromagnetic, psychic, nutrition, and thermal. This is what it looks like in the diagram in the book. If you take a look, it all goes into the body, as you can see. If for any reason the sum of all stressors places is too great a demand on the body, you'll begin to fall out of balance and move into the yellow zone. The yellow zone, so you want to be here. You want to be ultimately in the green. As stress continues to summate, you eventually work up to amber or orange, yellow even, if you will, and then red. That's when you are in trouble. If you don't make the necessary changes to reduce the primary stressors or stress in your body, then it begins to break down and progressively you'll move into the red zone. Now you're going to start for sure, signs of pathology, if you will. Your ability to cope with external stressors, such as exercise, will be progressively diminished, as is your ability to tolerate internal stressors, such as, i.e., disease, because too much stress will again suppress your immune system, right? The further you get into the red zone, the more easily disease will be able to take hold. This is where the saying stress kills come from. So I want to take a side note for a minute, yeah? Part of the confusion out there is how viruses and disease works. So it is not it is incorrect that, for instance, let's say a tooth, right? I've used this example before. A tooth that comes from a healthy body will not decay if you place a tooth in an acidic environment, like in an acidic solvent, or like a solvent with a great deal of bacteria, bad bacteria included. That tooth will actually not decay. This is the problem with the germ theory as it's been told to us. If the tooth has come from a sound and healthy body, that tooth will actually not decay. And there's ample evidence proving this. What is lacking is the evidence that it is the disease and the virus that causes breakdown in bacteria versus or a body that is unhealthy. Does that make sense? You need to be healthy from the inside out. If you are healthy from the inside out, i.e. your gut, your hormonal system, etc., then whatever is floating out here in the quote unquote air won't have as great an impact on you. Think about that because of what we've just gone through for the last 3 years. Some people were completely asymptomatic, right? Generally speaking, there isn't any real scientific evidence that would allude to this germ theory that it is the germs and the bacteria that attack you and are harmful to you. There's mostly evidence and science that's been unpurchased, right, and unbiased, that actually supports the theory that a healthy body can sustain unhealthy bacteria and viruses because it has the ability to do so. It has the minerals, the vitamins, the immune needed to actually fight off whatever is met. Because remember, we have been living amongst viruses from the beginning of time. And quite frankly, we need them. There is no reality, there's no world where you can give away all of the control to your leaders and hope that they're going to somehow protect you from things that are floating in air, things that have been here for millennia and things that will definitively they continue to evolve and they will Just like they were here before us, they will continue to be here after us because that's what they do. They evolve. Your job is not to avoid bacteria and disease. Your job is to build a body that is so strong and healthy that your immune system can then do what it was designed to do, which is heal itself. And the science backs that up. If you don't believe me, look it up for yourself. Maybe not on the Googler. All right, nerves of steel. There are many things that link stress and your nerves together. My nerves are frayed. You're getting on my nerves. My nerves can't handle this. As indicated above, the nervous system plays an important role in evaluating and processing stress in the body. A brief explanation of how the nervous system works will help clarify how stress affects your body. The nervous system is a combination of two systems that work together. The peripheral nervous system controls conscious movement, and the central nervous system, which contains the autonomic nervous system, and that controls actions in the body that don't normally regulate through conscious thought, such as digestion and eliminating food, releasing hormones, sweating, and the regulation of blood flow to different muscles and organs. Pause. The autonomic nervous system is further split into two branches, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. When activated, the sympathetic nervous system produces a fight or flight response. Whenever threatened, our natural inclination is either to fight to protect ourselves or flight to run for our lives. A potentially stressful situation will activate the sympathetic nervous system and prepare your body for fighting or running by producing the following responses, among others, within your body. The release of stress hormones that elevate your heart rate and blood pressure. Shunting of blood away from your internal organs to the skin and muscles, greatly reducing or stopping all digestive and eliminative processes. And increased sweating. You've probably experienced these responses when suddenly faced with a frightening or challenging situation. The sympathetic nervous system is often referred to as the catabolic tissue destructive system. When your fight or flight response is activated, levels of the stress hormone cortisol are also elevated. If cortisol levels are above normal, your growth and repair hormones are suppressed. Long-term overproduction of cortisol leads to a breakdown of body tissues and fatigue of the adrenal glands. As the adrenal glands fatigue, the body is unable to maintain balance between stress and immune hormones, which leads to immune system dysfunction. Many years of chronic stress will result in disease and even premature death. The sympathetic nervous system, part of the autonomic nervous system, which when activated, often as a response to stress, results in the release of stress hormones, increasing your heart rate and blood pressure whilst decreasing digestive and repair processes, often referred to as the flight or fight. All right, so that was a brief summary on the sympathetic nervous system. When repeatedly stressed, you continually mobilize your energy reserves for immediate use. At the same time, the parasympathetic nervous system is suppressed. The parasympathetic nervous system stimulates digestion, metabolism, and the release of tissue-building hormones, DHEA, growth hormones, testosterone, estrogen, as well as others. If the parasympathetic nervous system is constantly shut down, you'll be unable to effectively digest foods and repair your body. The overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system is a common cause for many chronic fatigue states and chronic disease processes, not to mention emotional imbalances and overall distress. So again, the parasympathetic nervous system is a part of the autonomic nervous system which supports digestive and repair processes. It opposes the effects of the sympathetic nervous system. How the nervous system responds to a typical day. So figure 2, let's go over to figure 2. Figure 2, all right. This is figure 2, so you guys have a reference point. It's the lion, and as you see, you have got someone on a hammock there, and the lion, which is his way closer to you whilst chilling like a civilian on the hammock. All right. So an optimal blue line and overstressed red line response to the autonomic nervous system throughout the day. The optimal response represents a balance between the two parts of the nervous system, whilst the overstressed response signifies a person whose body is working on high stress mode for the entire day, limiting digestive and repair processes from taking place. So you want to balance. If you've not noticed, the red line right underneath the lion and the green line right above the person that's relaxing on the hammock. You want to find a balance, meaning you don't want to be too parasympathetic. You don't want to be too sympathetic either, right? So what has Chinese medicine taught us? We know that we need balance, yang and yin, masculine and feminine, hot and cold, right? Dark and light. That is optimal in virtually all cases. And it's also part of the contract that we sign, that our souls agreed to when deciding to come down here on this planet Earth to experience what it's like to live here as human beings. So figure 2, which we've just gone over, demonstrates how the autonomic nervous system responds vary over the course of the day. The blue dotted line shows an optimal response, someone with an ANS, which is an autonomic nervous system that can cope with stress created in an average day. This person has control over lifestyle factors such as diet, scheduling, finances, and can keep their sympathetic nervous system as well as their parasympathetic nervous system balanced. We just talked about this. Balance is key, as taught to us in Chinese medicine. We know Tai Chi, Qi Gong, all help to balance the body out. We know that the Tai symbol itself, right, shows you as a reminder that you need to have both. Again, the masculine, the feminine, the black, the white, the high, the low, the yes, and the no. Carrying on. The black line in the center of the green arrow represents the division between the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic dominance. Both branches of the autonomic nervous system are always working. It's just a matter of which branch exerts the greatest influence over your physiology at any time. So again, to take it back to the diagram here, so we saw the red line, right, is up here, just underneath the line, and there's a blue line over top the gentleman in the hammock, but actually what you may not be able to see faintly is in the middle, there's a black line. And you know, your stress is like going to be like an ebb and flow. It's going to go up and down, right? Your sympathetic nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system. However, most of us in this modern life are living more in the red, and it's above the black line because we're not getting balance. We're mostly living up here as if we're always being chased by a lion. My question is, are you currently being chased by a lion? If not, remind yourself of that and start to tone it all down. Start to bring it all down, right? Sometimes it's useful when you're anxious, which is something that I am challenged with as well, to ask yourself questions like, well, hang on a minute. Am I currently being chased by a lion or a bear? Do I currently have shelter? Right? Do you have shelter? Do you currently have clothes on your back? Are you warm? Do you have access to food? For most of us, especially here in the West, we're fortunate enough where most of the time we can answer yes to virtually all of those questions. And so when you're able to sort of rationalize with yourself like that, you can maybe start to talk yourself off of the ledge so that you transfer from that sympathetic into the parasympathetic. You have to learn to use whatever tools you have. And if you can't get to a yoga class or you're not in a park where you can get barefoot and do some Tai Chi and Qigong, sometimes you have to just talk through it, or better still, breathe through it. Start to regulate your breath. Improving the quality of the exhales is always a great way to shift from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. The breath is incredibly healing. It's also alkalizing to your body. So you get a lot of bang for your buck by just understanding how to manipulate your breath and finding a way to cope, self-soothe, and calm. And if you're not sure as to what breath work you should do, there are ample resources available, perhaps on TikTok, but certainly on YouTube, including Wim Hof and loads of other great breathwork teachers. I would refer you to those resources. They're all available for free $99, which I believe is in everyone's budget. All right, so the red dotted line shows the response to the typical day depicted at the beginning of this chapter. Waking up tired to an annoying alarm clock immediately activates the sympathetic nervous system. This is why you should not wake to an alarm clock, right? Because right off the bat, you're being jolted into coming out of what I hope is a restful sleep. This is not good for the for the central nervous system. You want to go to bed early enough where you get up naturally early enough that you're able to get on with your day. I don't use an alarm clock unless I absolutely have to, like I'm catching an early morning flight. Otherwise, I'm already naturally up between 6 and 7 anyways because I'm in bed by 10. Therefore, I don't need an alarm. Right? Sometimes I'll use an alarm that's a very gentle sound, primarily to remind me when I need to get out of the house to get to one of my classes, perhaps. But I tend to not wake up to alarms, and I recommend that you start to do the same. Because when you allow yourself to wake up to a really noisy, horrific sound like that, it takes you right out of your green zone and into the red almost immediately. And it's not surprising. Then on top of that, guys, you add coffee, which is an adrenal stressor, along with a diet that does not produce an optimal metabolic response. And this serves to, again, magnify the responses you're experiencing. At this point, you have created a state in your body that is the modern equivalent of running from a hungry lion. Think about that. Think about what you're doing to yourself on a day-to-day. Good question. Best diet. It's not a one size fits all because nothing is, right? And as a holistic practitioner, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that there is. You have to do a bit of research. You have to figure out what your ancestry is, not necessarily by doing a DNA test, but maybe taking the metabolic type questionnaire and figuring out what your metabolic type is, whether you're a primarily polar type, meaning you come from sort of a colder climate like a Scandinavian or an Eskimo, or if you come from an equatorial ancestry, which would bring you to a warmer climate, that will dictate a lot of the times how you should be eating because that's how your ancestors were eating. So there isn't a one size fits all. But even then, you still, even after you've figured that out, and by the way, if you don't know how to test for your metabolic type, you can reach out to me at AlkaliYogi.com. I can run the test for you. It's not a problem. Even still, then you're going to just have to spend time to fine tune your own diet, your nutrition, meaning you have to start doing food logging. You have to see how you feel after a meal, because no matter what the experts are telling you that this is great for everyone and so had results with that and everyone should do the keto, the reality is everyone is going to respond differently to nutrition because we are individuals. Therefore, we have bio-individuality. So for me, for instance, I do really, really well on raw salads, raw vegetables, raw fruit. Today, for instance, I had some grain-free paleo pasta. I was really, really excited because I haven't had pasta in a really long time. And I started to feel horrible afterwards, right? So even though it's paleo, it's organic, it's grain-free, it's gluten-free, it's great. This is why we all have to take the onus upon ourselves to sit with ourselves, to become intimate with ourselves, rather than being quick to be intimate with others, and study ourselves. Well, what works well for me? When I eat raw fruit and vegetables, I feel amazing. When I eat injera, I feel pretty good too, which is, indigenous to Ethiopia and Eritrea. The cassava pasta, it wasn't great. It's still grain-free, so I'll do it from time to time, but it definitely won't be something that I do weekly, because it made me feel lethargic. And if you're not feeling energized after a meal, you want to feel more energized after your meal than before your meal, because your food is your fuel. It's not your entertainment, right? It's not your just your pastime. It's not because you're bored. It is literally your medicine, and that's coming straight from Hippocrates. And you have to treat it as such. Some people are going to do great on potatoes, other people won't. The only way to know for sure is to test yourself. Take that thing out of your diet, that particular thing, whether it be grains, whether it be corn, whether it be soy, whether it be gluten. Take it out if you can for a minimum of 30 days, but 90 days is even better. Dairy, And then introduce things back one at a time. Don't do it all at once, right? Reintroduce the corn by itself after a minimum 30 days, preferably 90 days. By the way, it takes about 6 months for your body to get rid of whatever gluten you've ingested. That's how long it takes to flush it out of the system. That's why I say 90 days is ideal, right? And then reintroduce the gluten by itself. Introduce the dairy by itself. Introduce the, whatever. Again, the rice by itself, right? And then you'll know for sure because your body will tell you within 30 minutes up to about 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. If there are any other holistic practitioners that are joining this this live or watch it in the replay, put it in the comments. But I believe it's within 30 minutes to up to 4 hours. You'll know immediately if it's a yay or a nay for your body. All right. So great question, Thorn One. I appreciate that, and I hope that was useful for you, because again, it's a reminder that there are no shortcuts in all of this. And oftentimes, especially over the last 3 years, what I've come to see is that people are quite happy to give away their power to someone that they believe has access to more information or is somehow more in tune or is somehow more gifted. But nobody knows what it's like to live in your body. There's so much variance between everyone's internal organs, what their internal organs are capable of, my colon versus yours, my gut and my digestive system versus yours. There's variance in that, in how they operate, their capabilities, their oxygen retention, their water retention, as well as even their location and their size. So if there's going to be this much variance, kind of how I look differently from you, right? There's going to be this much difference on the inside, kind of matching the fact that we look different on the outside. It means that there aren't going to be any shortcuts. You simply have to sit through it. You have to log, you have to be invested. You just have to try it out. What you know for sure is that you don't want to be feeling foggy, lethargic, tired, bloated, gassy after a meal. If you feel any of those symptoms, that is literally your body telling you you have a sensitivity. It's a no-go. It doesn't want it. You should feel light, agile, more alert, right? Basically the opposite of how I felt today when I had that cassava pasta. It should give you more energy, more fuel. Does that make sense, guys? I hope so. If not, reach out to me. So this kickstarts the central nervous system, right? You've had the alarm clock, then you've had the coffee, right? All of this to kind of jolt you into your day. And that produces hormones that activate the body. Excuse me. This kickstarts the sympathetic nervous system once more, producing hormones that activate the body's energy stores to make sure that there is sufficient fuel to run the brain. This yo-yo syndrome continues stressing your hormonal system and keeping you in a fight or flight state all of the day. In the evening, when you should be winding down, you have to drink more coffee just to make it through the chores and to prepare yourself for the next day. So instead of winding down and letting the parasympathetic nervous system work as you rest and repair your body, the sympathetic nervous system is once again sending you out of the green zone into the red. Digestion and blood sugar levels are disrupted, resulting in additional internal stressors, as well as reducing your ability to get a good night's sleep. How many people do we know out there that suffer with insomnia or just poor sleep every night? Once again, you wake up at 3 a.m. due to an activating effect of stress hormones, sweating from an increased metabolic rate, and you'll become progressively more tired, fatigued, and will start suffering from a string of nagging ailments that seem unrelated, but in fact are. So again, this green zone, right, if we're looking at the teeter-totter now, now we're looking at this diagram or this picture right here, depiction, right? These are the repair hormones up here in the green. These are the breakdown hormones in the red. Most people in the West, I would say, are probably living up here rather than down here. And some of the symptomology of excessive stress hormones are the following. Financial stress, right? Sorry, excessive stress hormones are oftentimes related to things like financial stress or food stressors, having too much food or not enough food. Also the quality of food, of which it's very hard to get quality food, unfortunately, these days. Relationships, right? Love, sex issues can, again, create a lot of excessive stress hormones. Dirty air, a toxic environment that we live in, chlorinated water, EMF pollution, medical drugs, industrial toxins, disrupted sleep-wake cycle. All of these create and add more stress hormones to the body. Stinking thinking, your mindset. What are your thoughts, your words, and your deeds, right? It starts with your thoughts, and then they become words and then deeds. So what are you thinking about? What are you speaking about? What are you doing? Exercise, too much or not enough. There is such a thing as too much exercise. And if you're a person that's currently in their sympathetic nervous system, if you're oriented more to that, meaning you're typically stressed, you're typically anxious, you don't need to be exercising to the point of elevating your heart rate. What you want to be doing is more anabolic movement, more gentle stuff like Tai Chi, Qigong, meditative walks, yin yoga. You are the last person that needs to be doing resistance training because your body's already breaking down. You are the last person that needs to go to CrossFit. You are the last person that needs to do a cycling class. Slow it down. You're already burning from the inside out. When you're overly sympathetic and you're already flooding your system with cortisol and other stress hormones, you're inflamed, which means that you're hot. Another way to say that is you're burning from the inside out. Doesn't make sense then to go and exercise and add more heat to already an overheating system. Make sense? Because 1 + 1 always equals 2, even when the spellcasters are telling us that it equals 5. Pay attention. So, in contrast, when you eat regularly planned meals that support your primal pattern, we just talked about this, thorn 1, right, that you asked. When you're eating in a way that's correct for you based on your ancestry and your background, then you should, and you exhibit control also over your daily schedule, then you're able to keep your autonomic nervous system functioning within the green zone. And the green zone is you've got adequate melatonin, growth hormones are being produced, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, which helps to give you, which helps to aid immune messenger suppression and blood sugar imbalances. Okay, so these things matter. And again, you have more to say over your health than anyone externally. You just have to be aware. They are quite happy to confuse and send contradicting information that we know intuitively doesn't make sense. Like, how could margarine be better than butter when it's synthetic and it's fake? Or, how can boxed cereal be better than eggs and meat? As per the new pyramid, the new food pyramid that was recently updated and has been recommended for Americans. Anyways, continuing on. This means that when a stressor does occur, you're capable of adapting quickly. After dinner, your parasympathetic nervous system should be activated and it becomes the dominant branch of the autonomic nervous system, facilitating in digestion, elimination, immune function, growth and repair processes. You get to bed by 10:30 p.m. and enter a proper sleep and growth and repair cycle. That's ideal. That's you fine-tuning your machine, also known as this vessel here, the body, which once again is the only address that you keep throughout your entire life. You can change counties, cities, countries, but the one thing that doesn't change, that goes with you, is this right here. So you better take care of this house. For the more technically minded, understanding your stress responses. To better understand our response to stress, we must consider how our brains are developed. Research by neuroscientist Paul MacLean shows that our brains are actually made up of 3 brains: the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and the new mammalian brain, also known as the human brain. The reptilian and the mammalian brain are actually functional units, yet fully integrated within our more modern human brain. The more important feature inherited from the reptilian and mammalian brain is our primary concern for our own safety, followed by our survival instinct to feed or seek sustenance. The reptilian perspective ranks procreation as the lowest concern, which is why when you're unhealthy, fertility is one of the first things to go, right? Because your body is fighting to keep you alive and is not at that time considering creating new life. Reptiles have little emotional capacity and live purely upon instinct. If a predator enters their territory, they automatically act upon their fight or flight instincts because they innately know their lives depend upon their reaction. As humans, we have a unique capacity to ignore our instincts. When stressful situations arise, we often think irrationally. For example, we ignore our primary reptilian instinct to be secure by spending money that we don't have on cars, jewelry, and other status symbols. In case we're sacrificing financial security for an improved social status, what our mammalian brain thinks, what our mammalian brain thinks of as rank. In this case, rather, we are sacrificing financial security for an improved social status, what our mammalian brain thinks of as rank. Unfortunately, many people will sacrifice their health by ignoring the second most important concern of the reptilian brain, eating good food. They compromise their well-being by eating cheap, poor quality food so they can afford a fancy car to once again improve their status. Reptiles and mammals engage in sex for purposes of perpetuating their species, but only when they're safe and well fed. Many humans, on the other hand, prioritize sex over health and safety. An overly stressed body will automatically respond by decreasing the sex drive to preserve energy for the first and second reptilian priorities. The amount of Viagra sold today is but one indication that our human brain has distorted our reptilian drive for safety and sustenance, raising our stress levels so high that many can't enjoy a healthy sexual relationship. If you're suffering from a low sex drive, you'll need to get your reptilian priorities of security and sustenance sorted out. The checkpoints at the end of this chapter will help you with the first priority. Chapters 3 and 4 will show you how to get the food and nutrients your body needs. So I went through chapters 3 and 4. And again, if you missed those, you can go onto my Instagram, AlkaliYogi on Instagram, or you can find me on YouTube. All of those videos are still up where I go into great detail covering chapters 3 and 4 in Paul Chek's book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. Ignoring our reptilian and mammalian, our old brain in other words, instincts, does very little to improve our stress levels. Modern society is driven by new brain desires to look better and have more material goods, often at the expense of physical and mental health, resulting in more stress and in more disease. So, the checkpoints for managing stress, here we are. These are the points that he just mentioned. Identifying your primary stressors. Focus on reducing stress in the area that is causing you the most stress. Generally, the reptilian priorities are, take notes, security, sustenance, and sex. The 3 S's. Once again, that is security, sustenance, and sex. Alleviating the chief stressor in your life often creates a domino effect, wiping out or dramatically reducing other stressors in succession. Point number 2, make a plan. Make a realistic plan to address your biggest stressor and or set a series of achievable short-term goals, allowing you to clearly recognize progress as it's made. Look for current books, videos, or audio programs that address issues related to your key stressors and how to overcome it. Another effective method is to find someone who has already been successful at overcoming the challenge that you now face. There is no better teacher than experience. And that's huge, guys, because there's so many resources available to us, whether they be TikTok, where people are sharing their experiences, or whether it be YouTube, right? How they got to a better financial place, how they now understand managing money, or how they, learned to detoxify and then fine tune their body, their diet, rather, their nutrition, according to their very own specific needs. You shouldn't take those YouTubers or those influencers and then try to do exactly the same thing. You should be listening to your body because, again, everyone's body responds differently due to bio-individuality. But there are so many resources available in this information age that whilst it can be very stressful and there are a lot of negatives from social media, you can also find great resources that were never available to us before because we're able to share and pool and almost act like a village of sorts. And that's even what I'm trying to do is create a village, if you will, a community, a tribe online where we can converse, have conversations, and help each other out so that we empower ourselves again and stop looking to people who are just humans, who are susceptible to corruption, who are susceptible to making mistakes. And frankly, leaders and governments and entities and corporations have the most suspicious past. Well, we'll just say they don't have the greatest track records for preserving human rights or civil rights or liberties or protecting the environment. I mean, if we're calling a spade, they're just humans, and we should stop looking to other people to solve all of our problems. Does that make sense? So again, being empowered to do for self and take care of yourself. But that requires us to be intimate with selves, spend time, reflection, journaling, going internally, figuring out what's really going on at the root of our problems and at the root of our symptomology, because the symptom is merely just the effect, it's not the cause. So getting to the cause is ultimately what's going to give you the long-term goals that you're seeking, that we're all seeking at the end of the day. So number 3, eat right and drink right. Internal stressors only serve to magnify external ones. So regardless of what your primary stressor may be, if you aren't eating according to your primal pattern type, and again, if you don't know what your primal pattern is and you would like to know, please reach out to me at AlkaliYogi.com or find me on Instagram, also at AlkaliYogi, which is spelled AlkaliYogi, and I can do your metabolic typing. You will not be able to effectively replace stress hormones you're using on a daily basis, which only causes more stress to the body. Once you do know your primal pattern, because you've spoken to me or someone else that can do that for you, once you know and go out of your way to eat as much organic and free-range food as possible, once you know what your primal pattern type is, go out of your way to eat as much of it that is organic and free-range as possible. The more conventionally farmed food you eat and the more toxins you are consuming, these toxic poisons do create significant stress at a metabolic rate. And at a metabolic level, rather, and many of them have been linked to mental and emotional dysfunction. Dehydration is a common cause of internal stress. Pause. Spring water, blessed with positive thoughts, with a little pinch of sea salt and also a little bit of organic lemon. A reduction of as little as 1% of water content in your central nervous system can cause significant psychological disorders. Reducing your intake of coffee, tea, and sodas, plus drinking more high-quality water, ding, 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 is an easy way to start reducing the internal stress on your body. Simple enough, right? You didn't even have to go to a doctor. You didn't even have to get a prescription for that. Number 4, move and exercise. Regular exercise can be a major tool to reduce stress. When performed correctly for your particular needs, exercise in the correct dose stimulates an anabolic, which is a tissue growth and repair environment. Your exercise program from section 3 is carefully constructed so as to not overstress your body. If you scored high on your stress questionnaire, it's very important that you pay close attention to the energy balancing exercises in chapter 6. These exercises will help stimulate your parasympathetic system, which is important if you are overstressed. You know what I'm going to do after I come off this live, guys? I'm going to go do my zone exercises right over there. I'm going to work on all of my chakras. Today, it's going to be the first chakra, the root chakra, which at the heart of that is, issues related to security and feeling like you're on solid foundation. That's what I'm going to do. Anyone else care to join me? Number 5, mental exercise. You're a living magnet, and you inevitably attract into your life the people, the circumstances, ideas, and resources in harmony with your dominant thoughts. Brain Tracy, The Lucky Factor. That's a book, if you're interested. Many successful individuals, that was a quote, from that book. So again, you're a living magnet and you inevitably attract into your life the people, circumstances, ideas, and resources in harmony with your dominant thoughts, taken from the book, The Lucky Factor, the author of whom is Brian Tracy. Many successful individuals give credit to the power of positive thinking. Try harmonizing your thoughts, words, and actions with your goals, and you may find that this will help decrease your stress. Doing so is a good example of beneficial mental or psychic stress. Make sure you're either talking or thinking about what you do want rather than what you don't. There are many excellent resources available that will show you how to apply this technique in your life. Again, refer to the TikTok, the YouTube, the Instagram. Go on for those reasons. Forget about the celebrities. They don't even know you're alive. They're not bothered. They're not bothered with what you're doing, is what I'm saying. They're just bothered with themselves. So, how about we also be bothered with ourselves? Our effective approach to reducing stress includes meditation and the use of a uh, computer program called Freeze Framer, an emotional management enhancer that helps you to access and maintain mental and emotional balances. These modalities will help you reduce stress levels by stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm not familiar with Freeze Framer. Perhaps you could look it up if that interests you. And that more or less brings us to the end of today. Are we at the end of chapter 11? Yeah, because the rest is pretty much just case studies and what have you. So I'll just read this to you all before I sign off. This is another quote. He who is of calm and happy nature will hardly feel the pressure of age. But to him who is of an opposite disposition, youth and age are equally a burden. Boom, boom, boom. Mic drop. Plato, The Republic. I'm going to read that one again. It was so profound and poignant. He who is of calm and happy nature will hardly feel the pressure of age. But to him who is of an opposite disposition, youth and age are equally a burden. Meditate on that. All right, on that note, we are done for today. We'll see you all next week, right? If you have questions, you know how to reach out to me. Find me as AlkaliYogi. That's my handle. Drop something in the comment section. I'll do my best to get to it. Otherwise, let's gather again in the near future. Thank you all for coming on this live. I appreciate you. Get free and stay free, and also stay healthy. Bye.